1. Friendly societies. One of the oldest types of financial institution, they begin in the 16th century, perhaps earlier, as self-help groups in which all the members contributed, and in times of trouble or ill health they could take benefits. They were in many ways the original welfare services, and by the 19th century more than half of the workforce were members of thousands of small societies. This was of course due to the fact that at this time if you became ill and unable to work then, unless you were a fully paid-up member of one of these societies, you would have little choice but to become a beggar. Most societies were small because they restricted membership to people in the local area, or industry, and most of the societies that survive today are still very modest and have little interest in expansion, preferring to cater for their members. The coming of the welfare state reduced the need for people to be members of such societies, and most of the friendly societies were then wound up, or merged, and now only about 350 survive, and only a handful actively seek to offer products to the general public. 2. Friendly societies, voluntary Social Security. In his retirement speech as Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill contrasted the world of small government in the 1930s, when he entered politics, with today's big government emphasis on social services, which he helped create. Health insurance was out of the question. For the elderly, life was filled with uncertainty, dependency and horror. Only the lucky few had pensions. There was no such thing as Social Security. O'Neill was wrong. Working-class families had a safety net long before Uncle Sam became involved. Our grandparents and even great-grandparents had benefit plans that protected them when they were sick, injured, out of work, or too old to work. Millions of workers belong to friendly societies. Various forms of friendly societies have existed since ancient China, Greece, and Rome. In Britain, they arose out of the guild system. Daniel Defoe wrote in 1697 that friendly societies were very extensive in England. In the mid-18th century, as the Industrial Revolution hastened the growth of British towns, the friendly society system became well established. Sometimes they were called fraternal societies, mutual aid societies, or benefit clubs. Similar organizations developed in the United States in the 19th century. The lengthy success of the Friendlies reflects that they were much more than benefit institutions. Friendlies were voluntary self-help associations, organized by the members themselves. The workers regarded the Friendlies with great pride, as their own creation. More than just a means of support, they brought independence from the degradation of charity. Friendlies served social, educational, and economic functions, bringing the idea of insurance and savings to those who might not have planned for the future. The social aspect of the Friendlies should not be underestimated. Their meetings included lectures, dramatic performances, and dances, both to inform and to entertain members. Since members took turns at managing the Friendlies, the typical working man developed executive skills that could prove valuable in his everyday employment. 19th century commercial insurance companies couldn't compete with the Friendlies, so they focused on business clients and the rich. Workers were suspicious of the companies because of their numerous failures and scandals. Besides, insurance rates were higher than those the Friendlies charged for comparable benefits. The reason? Friendlies didn't solicit. Thus, there were no salesmen and no commissions. Also, the member managers worked on a volunteer or token salary basis. Types of Friendlies. Friendlies usually were formed by people with a common denominator, like the same occupation or same ethnic, geographic, or religious background. Thus, there were the Czechoslovak Society of America, Providence Association of the Ukrainian Catholics in America, Locomotive Engineers Mutual Life and Accident Insurance Association, and the Fraternal Society of the Deaf. 3. Unlike today's compulsory and standardized state-run plans, Friendlies provided dozens of benefit packages. Each person created his own plan. One could retire at 60 or even 50 or get unemployment or illness aid equal to one's own wages. All that was required was higher premiums. Originally, Friendlies insured against disability to work, with little distinction between accident or sickness. This also came to mean infirmity, that is, insurance against old age. Most Friendlies paid for a doctor's services, burial expenses, annuities to widows, and educational expenses for orphans. They built old age homes and sanitariums for members and their families. Even in their early stages, they offered unemployment benefits for those in distressed circumstances or on travel in search of employment. The most common payouts were for maternity leave and retirement pensions. 1. Dividing societies. These were among the earliest British Friendlies, developing in the 1750s. After making payments for specified events, sickness, retirement, death, unemployment, the society would divide the balance of its fund among its members at the end of the year. The disadvantage of this was the constant need to recruit young people because these societies had no reserves, and the bulk of their claims tended to come from older members. Still, their appeal was considerable. Each contributor received an annual return even when things were going well. 1b. Fees were uniform and easy to calculate. They used no actuarial tables which were considered morbid for predicting the odds of sickness and death. The contributions were higher than at other types of Friendlies, but the members got back a lump sum at the end of the year. Dividing societies combined insurance with the idea of savings. As such, they advanced loans to members. A good example of a dividing Friendly was the Union Provident Sick Society. In 1880, its rules provided that no one would be admitted under age 16 or over 31. A 12-man executive committee was rotated among the society's members. Meetings were held every quarter night. There were a small entrance fee and a small contribution every 2 weeks. 80% went into the fund, 20% toward management. Sick benefits were roughly 25 to 33% of weekly wages for a year, and 15 to 20% for the remainder of the illness. For members over the age of 20, contributions and benefits were double. The surplus was divided each December, the members receiving shares in proportion to their contributions. 5% of the Union Providence members were self-employed tradesmen or manufacturers who didn't need the society's help. They had been working men when first admitted, but still remained to show their moral commitment and to donate their managerial skills to the society. Friendlies that did not divide gave higher benefits. One example was the Hitchin Friendly Institution. It provided benefits equal to full pay for a year to a member who was out of work due to illness, and half pay for the remainder of the illness.